Hi, everyone. I'm Lenny Pinna.
And I'm Bonnie DeCasey. And Lenny, I'm excited to say, was just on Fox News yesterday talking about Ecclesia arts.
Good experience.
Yes. So today, Lenny is going to be talking about himself because a lot of you have been wanting to know a little bit more about Lenny and what he does. So I'm just going to kind of ask some questions, and we're going to find out more about your life and what you do.
I'm excited about this opportunity.
I'm excited too.
To let the subscribers and the viewers know more about myself.
Yes. So I actually want to start with painting because I actually am very familiar with a lot of Lenny's paintings. So I want to have you talk about some of what you do.
Well, it's so interesting. Most of the arts I start that are new usually come out at a surprise moment. And I was going through a dark time when I was living in Cleveland back in 2003.
Which is actually right a little after when Letters to Uranus was filmed, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I wasn't doing theater anymore. And so I needed a personal art. And I started with the idea that I used to do some set painting.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, let me try to create on canvas what I did in the theater. And I started with this palette knife and acrylics to kind of do stonework.
Mm.
But where that really originated, believe it or not, was in 1985 in New York City.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I had sublet this apartment of a costume designer, and she had a case of paints.
Oh, wow.
And she said to me, hey, while I'm gone, if you want to use my paints and do some artwork, go ahead. So I opened up and there were these palette knives, and I didn't even know what they were, but I started painting with them.
Oh my gosh.
And
you realize people do that now. You invented something.
Well, I don't know if I invented, but maybe it became more popular. But so once I did that, when I went to then in 2003 went to paint, all I could think is I had to do it with a palette knife. I didn't.
Oh my gosh.
And I've painted dozens of paintings and have never used a brush. I always use a palette knife.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And the other interesting thing about it is I started doing commission paintings where I would interview the person and try to get their life and represent it in some sort of abstract on canvas.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So do you still paint now?
You know, I'm a seasonal artist, meaning sometimes I do one, sometimes the other. And right now I'm not in a painting.
Okay.
I'm in a TV series mode right now. If you can't tell by the channel.
Yes, you are.
Book, movie, TV series. But I am wanting people to know the whole basis of where everything comes from.
Exactly. Yeah. So you went from painting and then you went to something else that was highly creative, which was quilting.
Yes.
That I'm so amazed. When I heard that Lenny was quilting, I was like, oh my gosh, I knew he was excellent at it.
This was truly a surprise. Now the painting made sense because I had done set painting, texture, everything like that. Quilting was, I was turning 50 years old. And I wanted to commemorate that time. And there was a woman at work that made quilts. Okay. So I went to her and I said, if I design a quilt, will you make a quilt to commemorate my 50th birthday? And she's like, you know, I do it more for a hobby.
Okay.
So I said, okay. So I took 10 months, went to fairs and quilting stores and says, can I hire anybody to make a quilt? Nothing came about it.
Oh my gosh.
Well, my son brought a friend from the Academy of Arts College in San Francisco to a Thanksgiving event. And she starts telling me about, she's in textiles and everything. I said, could you make a quilt? She goes, yeah, easy.
Oh my gosh.
So I said, oh, I'll hire you. She goes, well, I'll have time between semesters. So we went shopping together. I picked out $500 worth of fabric.
Oh my gosh.
I told her that when I go back to buy these, I will let her know that I bought them all. She lived in San Francisco at the time. Well, okay. I bought the fabric and I called her and texted her, and for 5 days got no answer.
Oh no!
She flaked on me.
Jeez.
I want you to know she did me a favor. Now
a happy accident.
Now I can say that. But I went to back to one of the fabric stores where this woman had said earlier, why don't you make the quilt? And I'm like, no way. Oh, I went back to her. I said, guess what? My seamstress flaked on me. She goes, yay! You can make the quilt now.
So you were thrown into quilting.
I was thrown into quilting. So I borrowed a sewing machine, and this person gave me a half hour lesson on how to use the machine.
Does
Then
it take years to start quilting usually?
Well, this is what I'm trying to say. It came out of nowhere. So then, let's see. I go back to the woman who said, I'll give you a 1 hour lesson, but you have to cut out 20 pieces and sew those together because your pattern's going to involve that. I cut them out with scissors,
Oh my God.
sewed them together as best I could. Because she goes, I'm going to show you how to pin corners and everything.
Uh-huh.
I showed up with that. She showed me how to pin corners and sent me on my way. She goes, the next time you can come when you have big blocks.
Oh my gosh.
She showed me how to cut with a rotary cutter and how to pin with little pins called soldering. So I'm ambitious at everything I do.
You are?
That's kind of
Oh
what
yeah.
my
Oh,
one
yeah.
friend used to say. He makes no small plans.
No, you
Well,
don't.
my quilt was 2,200 pieces
Oh my
of
God.
1x4 rectangles,
That's amazing.
and I completed that quilt.
Oh my
It
gosh.
took me about 10 months.
Oh my gosh.
I brought it to the store because I now needed to have somebody quilt it for me.
Uh-huh.
And the women all gathered around and they went, this is your first quilt?
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
I was like, yeah, so the woman at the store said to me, I want somebody really good to be your quilter. So she calls this woman up and says, I have a guy with a quilt and you have got to be his quilter. She says, well, I'm at my studio. Have him come over right now. This is in Berkeley, California.
That is amazing.
I go over there. She pins it up on the wall and she turns to me and she says, this is your first quilt? I said, yeah. She goes, you've entered at university level. Long story short,
Wow.
I've made about 15 quilts. One for my son that actually won the
Yeah, I've seen that.
2013
Beautiful, yes.
Viewers' Choice Award at the San Francisco Quilt Show.
That's amazing.
So,
That's
again,
amazing.
it called me. I had no
the
idea what I was
core
going to
of
do.
you is the eclectic artist.
It is. It's like at any time, a different expression can come out of me,
Yes.
Yes,
Whether it be painting, whether it be quilting.
And then, jokingly, I said in a newspaper article one time that when I'm older, I'm going to do pottery. And right after I did the article, I started doing pottery. Because I see myself in older age with my hands on the wheel.
Yeah.
And I'm still going to aspire to do that in older age.
I really think pottery is something I can see. I've never experienced you doing pottery, but I can see.
But
you
it's a
doing
very
it.
quiet, contemplative,
It
and I
is.
feel like it's small too.
Very
Like
meditative.
you and your hands. I thought when I'm older, that's what it's going to be about, me and my hands.
So we've got kind of the interactive arts like painting, we've got quilting, pottery,
Yes.
but then there's also the theater and movement part of you that is like
Which is also the largest
the
part.
largest. Yes.
The collaborative part of me is
Yes.
the largest
Yes.
part. Yeah, I have a background in theater. I have my BA in speech communications and theater from the University of Pittsburgh,
Mhm.
and I have my MFA in dramaturgy from SUNY Stony Brook. But if I get to the core of what my theater work has always been about, it's about movement.
Yes.
And, well, let's say I have some fun stories. One is that I went into high school musicals and I became a dancer, and my parents were wondering, like, what's going on? But not too much. But after high school, they didn't know I started sneaking out for jazz and ballet classes,
That's what people sneak out to drink. You were sneaking out.
telling them I was going to the mall.
You can do jazz and ballet.
Well, I was doing this about 7 months.
Wow.
And it finally came out because we were going to be doing a concert, and my parents hit the ceiling when they found out that I had been taking dance. As you know, a lot of people don't think that men should be dancing. Like, what about Baryshnikov?
Yes, exactly.
But anyway, but then my mother, after she calmed down, she said, I should have figured this out. She goes, first of all, you've been dancing since you were in the womb. She said, when you were kicking around, I used to say, Arthur Murray's kicking again. And for those of you who know, Arthur Murray had the dance studios.
Yeah.
So she said so much so, she said it so many times that this one woman, after I was born, said to my mother, she called me Arthur Murray. She thought I was named Arthur Murray. And then my mother said, this is still no surprise because I used to take you to my Christian mothers group,
Mhm.
and you would be placed in the middle, and you would, at a year and a half, put on music and dance, and everybody circled around you.
Wow.
I think I have to say, I think that's what conditioned me for the theater.
That's amazing.
Here I am in the center of a circle of people dancing.
Wow. So when did you start theater? How old were you when you started theater?
5.
That is no surprise.
Kindergarten.
Do you have a story about that?
I do. Kindergarten. So Christmas is going to be the Christmas play. The teacher assigns me the role of Santa Claus, which is a half-an-hour monologue.
Oh my gosh.
All the lines. All the other kids played tops and toy soldiers and all the things I was talking about. They just animated. Well, my mother had to help me, learn the lines.
Yeah.
And she said, she was in the audience, she said, I knew every word for word, this half-hour monologue at age 5.
At 5.
There it is. That's where the memorization of lines started. And I've had a one-person show for 2 hours, 26 characters, and memorized all the lines.
That's amazing.
It just turns out that became one of my
your talent.
one of those things I pull out of myself.
That's an Ecclesia core that you can bring that out.
Yeah.
The lines and.
Then when I got to the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown Theater, my directing teacher at one point said, you've got to focus. You're doing too many different things. Acting, directing, stage designing.
Well, you've also done puppetry too in there.
Later on, I started to do puppets and masks. There's nothing, I just keep being led to the next thing.
Yes.
And I like doing them all at different times. The one thing is you can't do them all at once. Sadly.
You can't quilt and paint.
Sadly, you can't write a TV show, quilt, paint,
Yes.
do puppetry. Unless I could maybe do it. Maybe if somebody was doing my housework, my laundry.
It's always the laundry. The laundry is what
Grocery shopping, cooking for me.
Yeah.
Even so, no, you can't keep all parts of your brain. It really is about what you're feeling.
Yes.
I have to be very peaceful when I'm quilting.
Yes.
When I want to do like something inspiring, it's a painting.
Oh,
Whenever
okay.
I've been
That's
sad,
interesting.
it's been poetry writing.
See, you didn't even mention the poetry writing in this.
It's
That's another
because it's something I've done more personally for me whenever I've have felt low or depressed
That's
or something.
amazing. Now, the writing is also part of it, though, which goes to what you're working on now. Is
Yes.
The writing.
The writing of a TV series based on the book, A Face from Uranus, which those of you at my channel know that we're doing dramatic I'm doing dramatic readings of Ted and Henry.
Yes.
And then, but filmmaking was the next outgrowth in 2000 from theater, because Ted and I were in the theater together.
Yes.
As you know, became friends. And that night that he told me his story, I made a film about him. That was my next venture into film. So now this is my largest venture yet.
So what's interesting about this venture is that everything was interwoven. The quilting, the painting, so the film, all of it was happening at the same time in different, which is interesting to me.
That's really, she thinks, I like the way you look at my life. I didn't think about it, but yes, that's the one thing that's for 23 years has been like simmering alongside the constant the whole time while I do some other creativity things.
Which always brought out more with this project.
More insight into everything.
Yes, because as many of you know, creativity makes more creativity.
Exactly.
And that always
happens. Now it's just been since the pandemic that finally this project has emerged from that long simmer.
Exactly.
It's like, this is going on the front burner.
Yes.
All burners.
It's almost like a tree was growing, and then now...
And now all of a sudden it's starting to bloom.
This is the forefront of what you're doing.
And it's really because of timing.
Yes.
This art, right now, the book, the movie, the TV series, is matching the timing that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
The story could only be told now.
Exactly.
And so I'm glad in one way that while I was maturing in all of these arts, that the project was growing.
Yes.
I'm also glad that the project in some way took a long time because I did all those other things.
Exactly.
So,
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's all...
I knew young when my directing teacher says, you have to focus or you're never going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, but I have to do things the way I do it. And I'm eclectic, and it's just season after season after season.
That is important, yes.
It may have taken me a lot longer to do something. I've been successful in many ways all the way through, but to do something really large. But I'm ready for
It's
it
the right
now.
time.
It's the right time. And that young instant success just wasn't for me.
Exactly.
It wasn't because I had too many things I wanted to do.
Yes.
And I got to do so many
You
things.
did. I know, because you wouldn't have done the quilting. You wouldn't have done all the painting. You wouldn't have done and grown and done all that. That's really interesting.
I want to say, this is interesting. I compared this to a checkerboard years ago. I thought if I move each checker, painting, quilting, writing, little bit, something that's going to get to the other side and become kinged. And that's when the power starts. The king comes back and liberates everything else.
That is true. That's really interesting.
And I think right now, this is the project of my career
It is.
that is being kinged.
But you needed to do all that other stuff.
I needed to do all that to get there.
You couldn't just start there.
And who knows how it's going to free all of those other things to come back again in their timing. Acting's one of them.
Yes.
I hadn't been doing any
Yes.
acting for a long time.
I know.
And this project has brought acting, dramatic, performing back to my life. And I'm loving it.
Which is
because
wonderful.
it's a project that
That's
I'm
part of
passionate
what-
about.
Yeah.
I'm not out there knocking on doors. I'm saying, I'm doing this because this is what I've been doing and want to do.
Yes. Yes. So now that you're doing primarily the film, the book, and the TV series, you're also doing a lot of gardening. That's your creative outlet right now. So instead of doing the painting and the quilting, which you can't do at the same time as this,
No.
he still has a creative outlet, which Lenny always does, and that is
Gardening.
the gardening.
Well, it's funny.
He's been telling me about his gardening.
It's also hard to do housework and gardening at the same time, too. And guess which one always wins out? Gardening. Gardening is because my grandfather, my Italian grandfather, is the one that started me in growing vegetables, tomatoes at an early age. The other thing is, he showed me how to cultivate roses from a single rose over the winter time by putting it under a jar.
Wow.
And I now have cultivated some roses. And I actually went back to my grandparents' house that sold and got my grandfather's rose and transplanted it. It was already 60 years old.
Oh my God.
I transplanted it
amazing.
into my yard. And then I made another rose from that rose bush.
That's amazing.
And so that just feels really beautiful. But I want to say gardening in the last few years was more than an art. It was a deep spiritual process because through the pandemic and unfortunate experiences, I had two family members, my last remaining aunt and my mother die 8 days apart. And all I could do during that extreme grief, because I was now back in my hometown, in my mother's home.
Yeah, you'd come from California.
Yes.
Cross country.
Well, that yard, my mother didn't do anything. She was a woman.
Yeah.
So it was just grass.
Yeah.
And I started digging out old roots of trees and plants and things and rocks. And I knew this is all I can do right now. And in doing this, I am doing the spiritual work of my soul. And that's what I did. So it really deeply,
and that was
got me through.
Yeah. And
It
that
got me
was
through.
leading up to the book, because the book came out of all that.
Once I did the deep healing work, I was free. I felt free. And I went, it's now time that I can get back to the project that's been waiting.
Yeah, because the book was published in December 2022?
December of 2022.
Yeah, and you had gone back home and right around 2020, right?
2021, July.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So the dates are significant.
It took me over a year to get through all of the responsibilities and tasks with, funeral and houses and things like that. That then I was like, I'm now ready to relaunch myself. And the book and my life relaunched at the same time. But now it's bringing in the film, which we are now going to have on YouTube.
Yes.
and the glimpses of a TV series that I hope
Yes.
will be on the horizon.
Yes, yes. So now, okay, one last question.
Yes.
Going forward, I know pottery is possibly something you want to start up later in life, but any other artistic endeavors that you would that we haven't covered?
You know what? If I do,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to emerge like a lot of other
I
things
think you're right.
out of nowhere. Now, it's not about me deciding what I'm going to do and
It's going
planning.
to discover you.
It organically opens up. And guess what the latest thing that opened up was?
What?
YouTube.
It's true.
I never saw myself doing a YouTube channel.
Mhm.
This is the equivalent of when I started painting,
Mhm.
started quilting, started pottery. This is the new venture, and I'm happy to be sharing this with you. And
I'm so
I invite you
excited,
to
too.
join in with me and have conversations with me about things. And
And it's
I'm,
a lot more, yeah.
and I'm loving how this is opening everything up.
I know. I mean, we didn't script this Q&A either. I mean, we just Lenny and I can talk.
And I've been wanting to show people the work, but I've actually been wanting to show people myself.
Yes, I'm so glad you did this too. This is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I might have tears in a moment.
This has been
I'm an emotional guy.
wonderful talking about all of this, and it's so nice to have you here and be working with you. Now I'm going to cry. We're both going to cry.
Well,
This has been just the joy of my life for the past 3 months, working with Lenny on this project, because it's something I believe in. I believe in Lenny. We've been working together for 30 years. And we're ready to do this project, and it's exciting. And
Yes.
I'm so happy all of you are here with us to experience this wonderful creative outgrowth, which is what you're all about.
thank you, Bonnie. But I must say, I can do all of my creativity, but it takes somebody to recognize it. And Bonnie has recognized it.
You made me cry.
And I couldn't do a YouTube channel without Bonnie supporting me and helping to be the machine that makes it happen. So it's a joint venture.
Well, thank you. So now we're just going to end crying. Thank you so much.
And smiling.
Yeah, and smiling, because we do laugh a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to have more Q&As about the project. If Lenny starts a new gardening project, he will be showing you on Instagram passively. I know a lot of you might be interested. I might put a screenshot up of some of your
Great.
plants. Just,
Only you could do that. I don't know how to do that.
We'll get some of Lenny's plants out there. What's your favorite plant? We got to end with that.
Zinnias. In the summertime, there's nothing more beautiful than a row of multicolored zinnias.
That's amazing. You
Yeah.
can have a gardening show.
And I attracted a hummingbird, now 3 hummingbirds to those zinnias that in my hometown in Pennsylvania I had never seen. And my neighbor is flipping out because she had never seen a hummingbird either. All of a sudden I planted these zinnias and hummingbirds are
That's
coming.
amazing. Oh my gosh. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Which makes me feel really good.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this. It was so much fun just having Lenny share a little bit more about his life, because it's just a joy. You were so interesting. You've always been an eclectic theater artist. That's what we go back to.
That's it. That's
the
at my
core
core.
of what who you are.
I think deep down we're all multi-level.
Yes.
I just happen to have abilities
Yes.
and skills within the creativity to show the more diverse things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for this
rainy day
opportunity.
in Cleveland.
Yeah.
It's a little dreary out.
This is brightening us up.
This is making us happy. Thank you so much
Thank you, everybody.
for watching. And
Ciao.
Ciao.